Welcome to the Deciphering Business Podcast, where we help you unlock the tactical and strategic secrets that experts use. We'll be uncovering secrets in economics, technology, and business operations to help you get the edge on your competitors. So go ahead and hit that subscribe bell, and I'll see you on the other side. In today's episode, I'm talking to Naomi Johnson. She's an expert LinkedIn profile writer, and I tell you, if you've been as confused by LinkedIn as I have, you'll want to stick around for the entirety of this episode because she drops some awesome knowledge on exactly what to do to your LinkedIn profile. I know that you'll love it, so let's hop into that interview. Welcome to the Deciphering Business Podcast, and today I'm really excited to have Naomi Johnson on here, and she is a LinkedIn profile expert, and as someone who personally has not done the best job with LinkedIn, I'm really excited to talk to her about more tips and better ways to optimize your profile. Thanks for coming on, Naomi.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
How did you get into LinkedIn profile writing and just your journey with LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I started my business as a life coach in 2005. And by 2008, the same week that Lehman Brothers went down and everything was going on in Canary Wharf, which I could see from my bedroom window, my business also went down, but not for the same reasons. I had literally just made every single mistake in the book getting started as a solo entrepreneur. And when I say every mistake in the book, I literally mean that because I wrote a book with every mistake in it, which is my Grassroots to Green Shoots book, which is written for people who aren't coming from an entrepreneurial background and therefore aren't getting these messages, because by the time someone is qualified to stand on stage and teach, they're far beyond those lessons and just assume that. So that was really the beginning of my journey in terms of really wanting to care for and understand solo entrepreneurs, experts and coaches. I then went on to work with a friend running a business called Marketing Help for Coaches, learnt tons from her of what I should have done. And because I wrote the book, she ended up giving me her company, which is an amazing twist of fate. From there, I did a course called Key Person of Influence that some people may have heard, which is about becoming the authority by writing a book and partnerships and pitch and all of those things. And I just really had a real heart and passion for pitching small businesses and helping them. I got headhunted by a friend to go sell LinkedIn training with them. The focus was on small businesses, and that was going brilliantly for quite a time. We were in partnership with LinkedIn. The three of us would often be in LinkedIn's head office. And one day we were coming out of LinkedIn's head office in Ireland, and we're in the taxi back to the airport. And I said, I just don't understand what happened today, because all of they're trying to do is LinkedIn's desperately trying to open up all of their corporate accounts to you and have you sell their recruiting packages. But we sell social selling to small businesses. So what are we doing? At that moment, the company just changed direction. I had the opportunity to go with them. I was giving LinkedIn profile reviews to top CEOs of top companies, and they were queuing up to get these reviews and following up with them afterwards on the phone. And I had a little technique that made the CEO give me their personal telephone number, which was great. And they were excited to have my call. But it wasn't satisfying to me in that there were a number of problems with the company, and that we got bought out by a billionaire at the same time. And things just weren't working. And I had to ask myself, where do I want to be? And it wasn't the corporate route and doing it at that level, although I do work with some corporates. And I was just like, you know what? My call to action for the last 2 years has been, ask me for a LinkedIn profile review. My diary was always booking out with people asking for LinkedIn profile review. And the reason I chose a LinkedIn profile review is because I knew that people were interested in themselves and they wanted to know how they were performing. So I knew it would be a good hook. So that was working really well. I was talking to 20 people a week on their LinkedIn profile. I was working out what worked and what didn't work based on, was I actually reading it before I had a conversation with them, or did I come absolutely bored and just think, oh, I'll just wait for them to tell me about themselves? Or they would tell me about themselves, but it wouldn't match what they'd written on the profile. They had certain things in place, but they didn't have other things in place. And so I was giving them this advice and sending them on a course, but I noticed that they were coming on the course, but they hadn't actually implemented any of the profile training that I'd given them. And the reason is because they weren't wordsmiths. They were too close to their own business to figure it out, and they didn't have the time. So when I got to this crunch point of do I stay or do I go, I was like, why don't I just see if people want me to write their LinkedIn profile for them? And so I actually ended up leaving the company with no notice, 2 weeks to earn some money to get the rent in. And so I literally just went out to people and said, would you like me to do this? The first post I wrote about it, I got my first client from. which was
Awesome.
amazing. And within 4 months, I'd actually built the whole business up. I was oversubscribed with people wanting me to write their LinkedIn profile. I had 2 corporate clients. One of them had come through a natural connection of speaking at a conference and that conversation, and also through the search engine. So the one company came to me from 2 different routes, which I thought was really interesting. And it's just been that ever since. And about 18 months into writing people's LinkedIn profiles, what I discovered is that I was right in the 90 minutes that I have to interview someone to write the LinkedIn profile. I found that they didn't have a strong call to action. The thing like, why should this person get on a phone call with you? Oh, it's a free half-an-hour coaching. No, it's not. It's their confidential information. It's their vulnerability. It could be the first time that they've ever articulated their pain. It's not free at all. What are we doing to get someone on the call? And then what are your packages? Oh, I sell my time by the hour. Okay, that's not going to work. So there were things in that 90 minutes I realised I had a problem for. I fixed it for them, but because we fixed it so quickly, they didn't have ownership over it. And so I was like, actually, do you know what? This profile's not going to work unless you fix these things. So that's when I introduced my coaching program and all the business building techniques that I do to get to the point where the profile is relevant and can work. Some people, I say to them, do you know what? And if you're not going to fix that, I can't write your profile for you because you won't get return on investment. That's how I ended up in it. And it's been 8 years now. So
Yeah, that's super interesting. There were a lot of things you touched on there. I think one that stuck out to me in particular is we're starting to see this, I think, more with online education, where you can offer a course, but the follow-through on the course is usually so low that you're selling education, but what a lot of people really want is just the transformation and to have ownership of the transformation. So it sounds like that is where you landed.
yeah, we did find that it was very hard for people. This is another thing that came up really clearly as well, is that when I joined the company, they were doing a 1-day social selling training, but people weren't implementing it and they still felt confused afterwards. So then we split the day into 2 and said, come for a morning, and then 3 weeks later, come for a morning. And we would give them time to implement the training. But what was happening is that what they were being told were techniques, but they didn't have any grasp on when these techniques should be used because they didn't actually have a strategy. And for the audience listening, is I think that most people sit looking at LinkedIn going, I don't know what to do with it. And they're really confused. And they say, oh, I want to do more with LinkedIn. There's just this level of, you can ask a whole room how many people feel really competent using LinkedIn here, or confident or competent. And most hands will go up saying no. Because there's a mismatch between what is a tool, and what is a technique, and what is a strategy. When you know your outcome, you know your ideal client that you're going for, and you know what you're inviting them to do as a transformation with you, and you know what your call to action is, pieces start to fall into line. I'll run a search, I'll find those key people, and I will reach out to them nicely, genuinely. I just say they're not spam messages.
Yeah.
Or I will write my profile in this way to attract that person, and I will share content like this. And suddenly you start to be able to answer your own questions because you've got to begin with the end in mind. If you're just sitting there from the pressure of, oh, I've been told to use LinkedIn, I should use LinkedIn, you're probably not going to be able to find those answers within yourself, and you'll sit there very confused for a really long time. Or you don't open it, and then you just have this increasing pressure of, I should be doing something with it, but I'm not. Which is just too much psychologically for people to take on.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it is important what you mentioned there about beginning with the end in mind. A lot of times we think, oh, we'll just start. But if you don't know where you're going, you're going to get nowhere. And I think that's a huge part of it. I would agree. I think LinkedIn is, I would say, probably the most misunderstood of the social media platforms. And it's crazy. Let's talk to that owner who's never really got into LinkedIn, or their LinkedIn's just dead. Where should they start right now?
Yeah, the key thing to recognize is LinkedIn is a time vampire if you aren't there with a clear objective. Oh, post something, comment on things, be active, build your network. That's all time that you don't have as an entrepreneur. You've got either you're selling your expertise as a service and you actually want to be delivering excellent results to your clients and working on your client work, or you're leading a team, building up a team, getting finances, those kind of things. So we don't want to get distracted by LinkedIn. And as it's evolved in recent years, It's become much more on the social side. It always was social, but there's more emphasis now on followers. There's more emphasis on getting your post to go viral. And what we see is a lot of posts get loads of comments on them and loads of engagement and go, oh gosh, that person's really succeeding on LinkedIn. Look what they've done. I actually figured out last year that the posts that do that, they are often selling off the most vulnerable part of yourself or the ugliest part of yourself or something of that nature. So what I did was I knew that I was coming up to a graduation myself from an MBA. And I thought, I'm going to test this theory because I don't get posts going that viral. And I thought, I'm going to put a picture of me graduating. So visually, we're going to get that. And then I'm going to go through like age 6, this person said this negative thing to me. And age 11, this happened. Then, oh, look at that. And she succeeded. And it went viral. Viral enough, like 10,000 views, 150 comments, all of the good things that people think is, wow, that's an amazing post. It didn't lead to a single connection. So it didn't lead to a single new piece of business because there was nothing about that post that actually positioned me as an expert. And nobody actually cares about you as an expert until they know that they have a problem that you need solving, that they need solving rather. So those posts, they take a lot of time. You're selling off the most vulnerable part of yourself or somebody in your family that's involved in the situation, and it actually doesn't produce any results at all. And so that's, again, where the LinkedIn can be a time vampire. So the starting point is always to ask yourself, what do you actually need from this? And something that's really been in my thoughts lately is just going back to what it used to be back in the day, 10 years ago when I started off doing the training. And it's actually not the skills of young people today of knowing how to post, knowing how to comment, knowing how to hashtag. It's not those skills at all. It's actually going back to the skills that people had before social media ever came into play. That's sales and that's networking. And networking is knowing who your ideal client is and how to get to them. It's going to somebody and saying, I see that you know this person, could you introduce me? And leveraging trust with them where they will introduce you. And when LinkedIn came along, that was what Reid Hoffman's objective was, is can we help people find new jobs that they wouldn't have otherwise from people in their network that they've lost touch with? What about the people in their network that they could introduce people to? That's what it was all about. And that's actually about getting off the platform as quickly as possible and having a conversation with people, something people are quite afraid to do these days.
Yeah.
And what LinkedIn allows us to do is to look inside other people's networks and say, hey, there's my ideal prospect. They are connected with this person that I know, and I know this person really well. If I go to this person and say, I've got this package, I've got this product, I think it's going to be a really good fit for this company. I think it's a really important solution. This is why it's going to be good for your prospect. Would you introduce me? And they go, do you know what? They've been talking to me about that lately, and that's exactly what they need. And they go, yeah, it could be interesting, but I don't know what's going on with them, but I know that you're credible. I can see that if I make this introduction to you, your profile's bang on. They can make their own decision, but they're not going to have to work too hard to figure out why I've made this introduction, and they'll probably thank me for it. They will make that introduction, and that's a way more powerful thing to have than trying to get that person by sending them a cold message on LinkedIn, a note attached with the connection going, I can sell you this. Yeah. Having a 45-minute appointment with me, we've just connected. Stalking them by commenting on their content all the time, which is a good, effective thing to do, to comment and engage with them on what they're talking about. But what about getting that introduction? And that's what the best salespeople, like 50 years ago, knew how to do. And that's, if we could get back to that a little bit more, we would save a lot of time. And we'd find so many more opportunities. Because sometimes it is about the ideal client, and sometimes it's about a great supplier and having a great relationship with them. And sometimes it's about partnerships, bringing in the right partnerships to get you through the right distribution channels. It sounds like a different spin on LinkedIn, but it's actually where LinkedIn began. Yeah. And I think there's a need to get back to it because we are wasting so much time, putting so much pressure on people to write content and to get that engagement with that content. And the reason why I say the profile is so important is because some of my pieces that you'll see on my profile, which are the slides that go through, they take 3 hours or more to make. That's an afternoon. Yeah. And how many times can you do that. It's time, and there has to be return on investment for the time that you're putting in. And that has to be that it results in clients. If someone sees that piece of content, they come through to your profile and it just doesn't make sense. They can't work out what your company actually does. They can't work out why you help. They don't get why you're credible at what you do. They don't get how they start a conversation with you. Or all of those things aren't going to work, or that you're so pumped up with content doing all of this that they feel like, oh, he wouldn't want to hear from me. He doesn't have any one-to-one services. He's all about content and packages that you buy online or what have you. So you've got to get that balance right. And then also, it's not just about your ideal client coming to your profile. It's everybody in your network coming to your profile. Can they understand what you do? And beyond, can they understand what you do? Can they understand why there's a need for this? Because when they understand why there's a need for it and who you help, when your topic comes up in conversation, they will say, oh, I know the perfect person you need to speak to. And they will introduce you. And that's when it starts to really work. So your profile is a relationship tool. It's speaking to the other person. It's helping them to understand what you do and why you do it. So that A, your ideal prospects can come to you, but also those who will never be your prospects can refer you.
Yeah, there's several things there. One, it seems people are going to form a snapshot of you in their head, regardless of whether you do well or whether you don't do well. It's your opportunity to craft and curate that snapshot of how they view because people, I think you can tell when people are talking to you, they're trying to figure out, where do I put this person? How do I organize this person in my network or in my comparison of all the different people I know, right?
Yeah.
And the good news is you get to curate that.
Yeah. People pigeonhole you. Once they've pigeonholed you, it's very hard to get out of that pigeonhole.
I remember somewhat the times of LinkedIn when it was all social. It was more social selling, which sounds like what you're talking about, of actually using the network to connect and going back to social, as opposed to the turn that social media has taken, where it's become more interest-driven as opposed to relational-driven.
Yeah, of that one, when you've got the relationship right, you can have more business and less followers. When you're on the social side and the content side, you can end up with 11,000 followers and have no business, which I have seen people go through these courses, building up all that following, and they 11,000 followers. I don't have that many. I have 6,000, I think, and do just fine. And they have 11,000 and it hasn't converted into a single new client. That's an alarm bell to me. They also will say, someone said to me the other week, I've got, 16,000 followers. But when I post on LinkedIn, I get maybe 4 or 5 likes and about 150 views. How do I get 150 views when I've got 11,000 people following? It's because you've actually got to feed the system. That 11,000 is dormant if you're not posting content, engaging on that content, getting people to engage on it. So whether they've got 11,000 or I've got 6,000 actually makes no difference at all, because we've both got to feed into the system exactly the same in order to get the results, the response rate from it, and get seen.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think linking that up with what you had talked about, the going viral, I think that going viral for the longest time was such a catchphrase, and it was the unicorn that everybody wanted the thing to go viral. And the reality is more and more people, I think, unless you are a big brand with a very universally needed product, going viral doesn't actually help you, because usually going viral just means you're in front of a lot of the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. I was on Clubhouse once, and this young... she was saying, oh yeah, just TikTok, just keep making videos, and at some point one of them will go viral. And if you can get viral, then you're set. You're absolutely set. And I was like, but what about packages and pricing? What about the transformation that she can offer her clients that'll get them excited? Like, what about the problem that she stands for in the world that will get her known? What about the call to action that will get them into a sales conversation where she's actually in control of that sales conversation and can lead the prospect through the decision process that they need to go through to decide to buy? What about all these other things that the business actually has to have all these things set up? And I think sometimes a lot of businesses that do well from a viral post is because they've done the groundwork, they've put all that in, and then it can really work.
Yeah, and it's like you're chasing the wind almost. because it's fleeting. And once you go viral once, then the algorithms learn something about you. And then they try to replicate that, but it isn't as good. And because it's not targeted to your ideal audience, it's not targeted to people who actually care about what you're putting out there. All of a sudden now you could just nuke a page that was good and just algorithmically destroy yourself.
Yeah. I think people look at LinkedIn as the method. This is how you get business, but it's actually just a tool. It really is just a tool. The best times when LinkedIn really flourishes for me is when I go to physical or Zoom networking events and I connect with real people that I've met and spent time with. That always boosts. Like, maybe they don't buy from me, but people in their network start booking in calls and there's real life in it. It just has a whole different essence about it. And it's not, the holy grail here is to get somebody off of LinkedIn and get them onto a phone call, even if they're just going to be in your network, and you get to speak to them and build that depth of relationship, which is that trust that I was talking about, and getting to know people. You don't get to know people and you don't get that trust and you don't get those referrals and that transfer of trust when all someone has done is like a piece of your content, but they've not got to know you and they've got no loyalty to you and they've liked it, maybe they've commented. And that's the end of that, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for small businesses, which is where we started the question there, it's a time vampire. It really is. It's like, you need sales appointments. What's the quickest way to get a sales appointment? That's the question. And if there's the platform, that's great. If it's not, there might be other methods, other places to go. But I would also say within that LinkedIn is always working for and against you. Because if they Google your name, your profile will come up. And it's either draining leads out. So you've done all this work to get a referral. You've done all this work to like people to know your name. And they come to search for you and they come to LinkedIn profile. And they're like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do with this. Do you want my business? My friend told me that you offer services and packages like this, but I don't see this. Do I just send you a connection message? What do I say in that message? This is hard. No, I think I'll just not. Do you know what I mean? And then find somebody else.
Yeah. And it's lowering that action threshold, that what they feel like they need to do in order to, or the knowledge they feel like they need to have in order to take an action. And in taking it offline, it's interesting. I have a client and we do videos for him, social videos, and we post them on LinkedIn. And what's funny is the videos are doing reasonably pretty well and it's boosted his LinkedIn engagement. But what was the most interesting thing and the thing that made him happiest was when he went to a real life networking event and he had someone come up to him and was talking to him. It's like, I feel like I know you, I just don't know where it's from. And turns out it was from the videos. And once again, now he has a little bit of authority, credibility, and trust from putting that out there. But it all happened in real life. It happened offline. It happened when there was an opportunity to connect with someone in real life.
Yeah. Videos are fantastic because you know how I said about, I like what you said, but I've got no feel for who you are. I don't mean the feel for what I ate for dinner last night or like your voice. We learn a lot from people's tone of voice and their mannerisms. And so the video can replicate having met you in person because I've seen your mannerisms, I've heard your tone of voice. And so it does bring a person alive. And I have plenty of clients that I've never met. And we've done all the transformation work and had a fantastic time, but never met. That's because we did it through Zoom and we saw each other. But what the essence of what you get from the Zoom can also be got in the video as well. It does bring you alive on the platform, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Just as a follow-up to that, what are your thoughts on content creation on LinkedIn just in general? Like, I've heard it can be a time suck depending on how easy it is for you to create stuff. I tend to see LinkedIn as still the most balanced of the social media platforms where you can have text, you can have pictures, or the carousels like you're seeing become super popular right now. And you can also see video and put video on there. How do you think about content creation on LinkedIn and frequency, types, stuff like that? How do you think about it?
Yeah, I think mixture is always good. I think it's about understanding what your message is that you want to convey. Because when you know what that message is, it almost dictates what kind of content you're going to put out there. The photo will always get someone's attention. The carousel is always, oh, that sounds interesting, the title, and you click through. And you just have longer to spend with somebody. There's a Google metric that was launched a very long time ago now, and it's the 7-11-4, which is I see you in 4 locations. I've had 11 touch points with you, and I spent 7 hours with you. And the 4 locations would be YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or face-to-face, or multiple locations in the physical. And then you could almost put down those locations again, if you want to go into it, is I saw you in a slideshow, a carousel, I saw you in a photo, I saw you in a video. All of that kind of contributes to that location, even though it's all on LinkedIn. But also the amount of time someone spends with you, watching that video and then flicking through that carousel, all of those minutes are adding up to that 7 hours. And it's called the 0 moment of truth. Because LinkedIn can watch all the data and watch everything that people are up to and how long they take. They literally worked out if someone spent 7 hours with you, had 11 touch points, and met you in 4 different locations, that would be their point at which they were ready to buy, and also fall in love with you too, just in case you need to know that. You're married, no, but that's for the listeners. It's interesting with these dating programs. I noticed that they had the date take the person on 2 locations. Aha, there we go. And the car is the 3rd location. So
okay, that's very interesting. So as far as I've heard that consistency is one of the magic things for LinkedIn. Some form of consistency is much better than spending 8 hours a day on LinkedIn 1 day a week or 1 day a month.
Yeah.
Is that something that you found to be true as far as consistency?
Yeah, so it's definitely what you put in is what you get out. I'm probably more referring to other people here who've done actual proper research on it. There are a number of organisations that have worked out what works and what doesn't. So it's not necessarily my experience I'm talking from here, but more what they've seen by analysing lots of posts. Consistency is really important. If you don't post for, say, a month, then your next 3 or 4 posts aren't going to get much traction at all, because LinkedIn are like, you haven't put anything into the system. And it's exactly going back to what I was saying about the 11,000 followers and the 6,000 followers. If you're not engaging, you're not going to get anything out of the system. And it's not a case of just post and leave it. For a post to go, not viral, get up into the 1,000 or more, you need to have 15 comments and 15 likes within the first 2 hours. So that's a big ask. Once you've done that, it will naturally take on its own energy, and LinkedIn will keep promoting it, and they'll promote it obviously to like the first degree of people will see it. They like it and comment on it. It'll go to their second degree, and that's when the juice is, because that's new people you've not met before coming across you. Yeah. And then when they comment and like on it, it will go out to their third degree connections as well. And that's when you'll start seeing that people are liking and commenting who you've never heard of, and it says third next to their profile. So that's really good reach.
Oh, yeah.
That's where you really want to get to. That's the 15 comments, 15 likes in 2 hours. And you want to be posting consistently like 3 times a week. But then also, if all you're doing is putting out there and talking about your own stuff, it's not anywhere near as powerful as doing that, but also commenting on other people's as well. You almost, the one post you put up, which you're hoping 15 people will come and comment along, which you're going to comment and like on back, you want to go and do 15 as well. And that might be per day, but that might be a lot. But I would say a minimum, if you're putting 3 posts up a week, try to be at least commenting on 15 other people's stuff once a week. Because LinkedIn has got a score going on and they do know what you're doing. And if you go inactive, they will inactivate you too.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because I mean, it sounds like the difference between being consistent and actually being social and engaging on the platform is the difference between your post being a billboard on some unknown country back road versus actually having a billboard in the middle of the city where people can actually see it and notice it.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, actually, because it goes back to a question you asked me before. I see Facebook like a Marrakesh marketplace. There's families there, there are dogs there. They're just there for a multitude of reasons, social reasons and business reasons, and maybe get pulled into a souk and, let me sell to you. No, you do want this, madam. Have it. No, I don't want it. You touched it now. You have to pay for it. I'm like, oh my God. It's absolutely crazy busy. Yeah. Really good fun, but crazy busy. It just feels that way, and all the groups and all of the merging and all the different things going on. And then you come over to LinkedIn and it's got a much calmer feel. And it's a business networking lounge. And I think Instagram is a little bit more of let's watch a sideshow. Let's walk around this craft market and, oh, look, someone's doing a puppet show. It's a bit more like that. It's less interactive and more entertaining, engaging in that respect. If I comment on somebody's stuff, I don't get like a big push. I'll come back and carry on the conversation. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have a profile for me to really get to know the person. LinkedIn's the only platform that has the profile where I can deep dive and really get to know you and check my decision to buy from you or not. And so LinkedIn is like a business lounge. If you think of it like a business lounge for networking, you wouldn't show up in your wedding dress, what you were wearing last night, but you may show up with a lanyard around you with your name on it, right? Don't put a picture up on your LinkedIn profile with a lanyard around your neck, because it completely drops you down. A little tip for people, right? If you go to an event and you're the speaker and they give you a lanyard, when you get up to speak, take the lanyard off, because it completely discredits you. So there's 2 points I want to make here actually about the networking lounge. One with the content we were talking about. If you are in a business networking lounge and you go and sit on a seat and you turn that seat towards the wall and don't talk to anyone for an hour, no one's going to come. Nothing's happening, right?
Yeah.
And then someone might go, oh, look, John's over there. Oh, is he a bit sad? I haven't spoken to him for a while. And they come tap you on the shoulder and have a conversation with you, right? So they just saw you on LinkedIn, or they thought of you or something, and they thought, oh, I'll just go and have a chat with him. But no one's probably going to notice you sat with your back to the right, and then they're not actively going to come over and speak to you because, oh, I must be having a quiet moment, we'll just leave him be. And that's effectively what you're doing when you're on LinkedIn and you're not engaging. And then when you are engaging, you're talking to people, you're in the thrust of the room, and then maybe you start like saying something and suddenly 5 or 6 people are listening to you and you've got that soapbox moment. But there's a calmness about it all, and there's a professionalism about it all, which is really important. And the second point I wanted to make about that with the lanyards is that I just did some profile reviews for a speaking group, and 2 of the people I spoke to, one of them, he had been in my network for a long time, and I'd seen him come to my networking events, and we'd messaged a few times, but this was the first time a year later we were actually having a conversation. And I almost didn't want to have the conversation because I had this perception of him that he wasn't a serious business person. He was also in a country in the middle of Africa, which I don't know what their economy is to know if they would buy or not. And anyway, I went and I spoke to him, and the way he showed up on the call was a mature businessman, and he'd been delivering training for 10 years to corporates, right? That was not my impression from LinkedIn. His photo was of him with a microphone and a lanyard, and that kind of stance of, I'm asking the speaker a question and I'm not too sure about myself. And he probably thought, here's me being an authority on a subject because I've got the microphone. No, your body language tells me you have the microphone because you're asking a question of the speaker. So I saw him as young and I saw him as inexperienced and vulnerable. That's not who he was at all. Another one I spoke to was a mature businessman who was a lecturer at some very high-end universities. And he came across very competent, very knowledgeable, and he wanted to trade internationally with his subject. But his picture was of him with a microphone, this time definitely on the stage, a scruffy shirt open at the neck. You could see a curtain behind him, and you could see that panel ceiling. So we're looking up at him. We've got a terrible background. We've got a terrible jumper, and he's with the microphone, but it's got no stance at all. And even if he did, his outfit lets him down, and the background lets him down. And I said, you've got to take that photo down immediately, because firstly, I think you're 20 years younger than you actually are. But there's no authority in this picture. So it's creating a picture, like we were saying earlier about pigeonholing people and making that assumption about who somebody is really quickly just by looking at the profile. That's number one. Who am I talking to? Do you look like the intern or the vulnerable participant? I've had so many conversations over the years. There are so many conversations about this. Speaking to someone and thinking I'm talking to the intern, and then work out they're the CEO who's been there for 10 years. And you're like, I'm sorry, can you just recontextualize this for me? This is your photo. What is this photo doing here? Oh yeah, I had that taken 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh. And then it changed how I was interacting with him and the questions I was asking. And Yeah, the photo has a huge impact on how someone engages with you on LinkedIn, for sure. And then if they want to buy from you,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We think about, in web design, we think about landing pages, right? So they've seen your ad, they've clicked through, what does the offer look like? And what does the landing page look like? How's that designed? And how does that hit them when they get there? And it sounds, especially when you're on LinkedIn, your profile is really the landing page, and that's where everybody is going to end up and make their decision about who you are, what you stand for, what you're like as a person, and if they trust you, what are the micro decisions that they're making about the level of trust and credibility and authority that they have with you.
Yeah. And that's why I just harp on about the profiles so much, and why those 2 years I spent reviewing people's LinkedIn profiles matched in with the training I had on how to position yourself as a key person of influence, matched in with my training in business psychology and communications. It ended up being the landing point, which was just the perfect place for me to be. And there are such key things to do with the LinkedIn profile. When somebody lands on it, they haven't come to find out who you are. They're curious about something you said. So you either posted content that was curious, or you commented intelligently on somebody else's post, and then that person's coming through to connect, to find out more. Okay. So when they see that comment, either of one of those two things, your post or a comment, they go, God, that's interesting. That's a perspective I hadn't considered before. What is the context of this? Is this person just saying it left field, or is this something they know more about? Because if I'm interested, I want to find out more. So the first thing you're going to do is just look up and see underneath their name what's showing, the 49 characters that are showing of their LinkedIn profile headline. Those 49 characters need to link to your subject area of expertise, because if you've just communicated expertise, I check, is this your area of expertise? Oh yeah, looks like it is. I will click through the profile. I'm not going to click through the profile if it doesn't tell me straight away, because it's a distraction. It's like, how is this going to continue the conversation with you and help me learn more of this expertise? So those first 49 characters are really interesting, are really important. I've come to your LinkedIn profile, I've landed on it. Is it well put together? That's the first thing I'm going to look at. Have you even completed it? There's a first impression of how much time you've put into it, right? And I've spoken about the photo, just how important it is. Don't have a photo where you're really far away, because during the pandemic, when someone was 2 meters away from you and you were trying to talk to them, how awkward did that feel? Did you not want to shuffle forward and get closer? That's because the person has to take up a certain amount of space in your frame, even feel connected with them. So you need to cut your LinkedIn profile photo really close to you. When the photo was bigger, Head and Shoulders was great. They made it so small. It's like they don't understand their own product. It's so small. Then now it's literally the frame of the head, because I need you that close to feel a connection to you, like we're talking. And then you've got your first characters sorted out, putting you in context of what you're about. And then we want a line with movement in it. This is the problem I'm here to solve. We don't want it listing out, I'm going to give you efficiency and resilience, because that's like you saying, I'm going to give you an engine, a carburetor, and an exhaust pipe. Like, I don't buy cars in parts, so why would I care? I don't need resilience, and I don't need effectiveness. What I need is a car that's going to get me from A to B when I need to get there. It's really important that that's written in the right way that sets the level of what we're talking about here and the problem you're going to solve. In the creator mode, you can use hashtags. That again sets the context of the type of conversations that this person can expect to have with you. And now, if you're on creator mode, which is to have hashtags, you can also put a link there to have a person book a call with you, or come to a scorecard like I've got, or find out more. And that's really key, because that's what's going to stand out for people. And the background image, again, that visual sets the context as well. If you are into refurbishing restaurants and making them look really cool, let's have a photo of a restaurant that looks really cool. Okay? And maybe put some words over it. I've got something with words, because what does a LinkedIn profile look like? I might as well just come straight out with my message. But you want something that's going to grab the attention. Not too much information, but it's going to grab attention. Then you're going to come down the profile. That's my first impression. And we're going to scroll to the bottom, then we're going to scroll back up and then we're going to choose to read or not. Make sure your featured content has visuals in it, because that brings colour to the profile and shows that you're active. Hopefully that's not the first thing people read, because it will take them off your profile. Thank you very much, LinkedIn. I've done all this work to get the person here. And taking up barely any space, taking up more space actually, is all of the activity, which I think is a complete waste of space, because it says, well done so-and-so, on what? You haven't given me the original post. Like, why are you taking up all this space? So those two things are taking up massive amounts of space, and your about section is reduced to showing 2 lines with see more. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I wish LinkedIn would listen and change it. Those first 2 lines need to really grab attention. And I'm going to come back to the about section in a minute, because the next thing we're looking at that's standing out is all the experience in your experience section. You're going to have 5 entries before it says, click here to see all entries. And then it will open up a new page, and the person will have to navigate back. So we need those 5 to really stand out. If people have got multiple businesses, they want to highlight those ones there. And the order of them is going to become quite important. If the item is open to present, they're still in the role, you can shuffle them around. But once it's closed, you can't change the order. It's chronological. What's really important is that you can really nail down, this is my company and this is what we do. Because for all of the content you shared, everything that's out there, just tell me, what do you do and how do you do it? Am I in the right place to continue this conversation with you? So that current experience entry for your company needs to have, this is what our company does, and this is who we help, and we do this by. And this is really powerful. If you want someone to book a sales appointment with you and come to you pre-sold and ready to buy, predisposed to you and knowing that they're ready, they want to invest, we need them to know what they might be investing in. We need them to have thought about it independently before coming to a conversation with you. When somebody books a phone call in with you, they book it on a Monday for a Thursday, and you've awoken them to the fact that they have a problem and a solution exists. Between Monday and Thursday, they will talk themselves in to working with you. He's got this package and it looks like this, and it takes 3 years to take, or 3 months, whatever. I can see myself doing that, and I like the idea of in-house training, and I like the idea of having an online portal, and yeah, that could work, but I've got this question, and my objection to that would be, and they're having all this conversation with themselves. If that was the answer to that, I wouldn't have an objection to that, and actually I think that would work. So they're just constantly talking themselves into your solution, right? So you go on the phone with them, you do a diagnostic with them. What's going on in your world? What are the pain points? What's the risk of not taking care of this right now? And then you present to them your package of how you help people. There's no surprises. There's barely anything for them to think about because they thought about it already. Yeah. And so you'll find that conversation a lot more advanced and a lot more deep. And you'll find a quicker reception of, oh gosh, I never considered that before. That's overwhelming. Oh dear, I didn't know that. I'll have to go away and think about it. They don't need to because they were already prepared for it.
Yeah.
So the entry for the past experience, here's how we help. You want to go in with that all bells and whistles package, like the full comprehensive package. And then the person will look at it and go, that sounds really great. I'd love to do that. Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. But I don't know you yet. This is too much. I can't jump in on that. So then we come in with what's called a product for prospects, which is a nicer, easier piece, which is paid for. And this is why I said that structuring your packages is the foundational point for this. So they go, yeah, okay, that sounds much more doable. I could start myself off there. That feels good. Oh, but again, I haven't spoken to you yet. I don't know you yet. I can't just phone you up and ask you for that. Maybe it's not right for me. And that's when you pitch your call to action, which is your diagnostic, having a conversation. And so that way you walked them through that whole buying journey and they get what we're here for. This is what I can get from you and this is how I can continue a conversation with you. That's huge. Then your past experience, you've got a methodology, you've got an opinion on how things should be done, you've got credibility. Your past experience needs to be written in a way that sets the scene of how you've developed that knowledge. So what was it about that particular job? So we don't care what your sales thingies were or what all these different things is. What is it about that job that you experienced in that industry at that time in history, at that economic moment, that proved to you that your theory is right? That, you know, your expertise. I hinted on a few things there. it's not that we have to know everything, but we need to know how to respond in the economic climate. It's 2008 and this was happening. And I'm not referring to my own story there, but if you were leading a business through something and it happened to be 2008, or maybe you've gone back to 1994 and talking about something you did in computers between 1994 and 2004, that's critical. That was a massive period of change, which means you know how to spot trends, you know how to adapt. And do you know what I mean? These things really matter.
Yeah.
Then the question is, who's actually going to read that deep, actually? People at the 11th hour and people at the first hour. People who are like, we're going to sign this off on this tomorrow. Is this really the right person? They're going to read every bit of it and go, yeah, this feels good, actually. Let's sign off on this. Or someone who's bought too quickly and gone, who the crap is this person? I'm scared. Or a family member who's like, why have you bought from this person? What is this?
Yeah.
They're the people who are going to go that deep with your past experience. And it will change your working relationship with people. Because they will, they know where you're coming from, right? You know their industry, you know that economic period, and they'll fight you. You'll make a recommendation to them and they'll go, oh my God, that feels scary. I don't want to do that. And if they don't trust you, they'll tell you that, either through their actions or through their words. But if they trust you, they'll go, and just feel scared quietly and go along with it. And that's why the past experience is so important, because it builds that trust. And then the about section is the next bit that's absolutely critical. A lot of people write it assuming that the person's comes to their profile knowing that they have a problem and looking for a solution. And they ignore the fact that actually 90% of their audience has no clue who they are, no clue about, they actually have no need for that service whatsoever, or they have needed that service, but they have no comprehension for why they need it. The key thing with this is we need a paragraph, and it needs to be about 4.5 lines maximum, that sets the scene of what's going on. The world is moving at high speed, and customers have very high expectations, and distribution companies must respond or else they'll lose business. But the cost of investing, of transforming or upgrading a factory to Industry 4.0 is crippling for most companies. I get that. I get it from a customer point of view, and I get it. You can't upgrade. So now everybody in your network, they get it, right? Yeah. And the person who is needing that solution is, that's exactly my position. I need to upgrade my warehouse. Can't afford it. How do I do it? Oh, you've got a solution. Let me keep reading. This is what the company does. This is who you are within the company. This is why you're passionate about it. This is why you're an expert at it. This is why you like this topic. This is how I get in touch with you. Okay, so that's more of a corporate one. For a personal person, it's like that context of the problem you solve and why. And that's why, this is why I help. This is what my company, this is what I do. So as an expert LinkedIn profile writer, as a videographer, I work with this size organization to create this so that they have this. I do this by, and then give them a little snippet and then say why you love it. I've been in this industry for 15 years and I've seen it evolve, and right now the TikTok and these different platforms are really key. Imagine what would happen if you could just do one interview and pop, a week later you've got all these extra bits of content. It would make a massive difference. But first we have to understand why we need the video. Why is video so important? But also not assume that everybody needs it. Because actually, like, one person can not know it, but they could know 5 other people in business that do, that could refer you. Or it could be that your grandmother refers you. Do you know what I mean? Like, when somebody gets it, they're like, oh, you should speak to so-and-so, I can sort all that out for you. Really? Yeah. Your name's coming up in all the right conversations. So that's the about section. And it's got to pull it all together, and it's got to feel like a conversation. Because I see you across the room. That's me seeing your photo. I come up to you. What's your name? That's your name. What do you do? That's your first bit of your one-line headline. Oh, that sounds interesting. And then you have a moment for a dialogue with that person before someone interrupts. And the profile, when it's written in such a way, I will read every single paragraph. If you ask me a direct question, which actually this came up with a client recently who edited what I'd written in, and I had to turn it and say, no, we can't do that. Because when you ask a direct question, the person goes, yeah, what do I think about that? And then they want to respond. But they can't respond. It's a LinkedIn profile. So we have to preempt the objections that people are going to come up with We can still make the same point that the question was about to make, but we need to be a little bit assumptive and preemptive so the person just reads from top to bottom and goes, yeah, I get it. All right then. Nice. And we've taken people who didn't know that they had a problem and weren't looking for a solution to, my God, I've got a problem and I better find some budget for this. My life has got to be changed. This has got to happen.
Yeah.
Or I've got this problem, I've been suffering with it for years, I didn't know there was a solution. I must be working with you. Or I know either of those coming through to, I must invest in a solution. To the only person I want to invest in is with you because you understand me, you get me. And there's actually a statistic out there that something like 77% of people who come to an awakening of their problem with you will buy from you. So they won't shop around because that relationship is there. That is what we're creating on the LinkedIn profile. And that's why it's so important, because everything else is just a leaky bucket, water flowing on through. It's got to come to your LinkedIn profile, and then all of those things. And then absolutely critical is it's got to link to your sales funnel. Like, what is the next step you want people to take in order to start their journey with you?
That makes perfect sense. I forget who said it and where I heard it, but the person who articulates the problem best wins. If I can articulate the customer's problem to them better than anybody else, they'll know that they are understood and they are cared for, and what matters to their priorities are aligned with what you're trying to do to help them with transformation.
And that you're expert enough to help them. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That was really brilliant masterclass on a lot of the reasons why each section is super valuable. I really enjoyed that. And it seems like any of those points, those are all the opportunities for missteps or misalignments, and the extent to which they're reading your profile seems like the extent to which those can be things that attract them and move them down the page to read more and learn more and develop a more comprehensive understanding of you, versus where are you throwing them off and where are they getting redirected into something besides what they originally came for, was give me the context of who this person is and why I should care.
Yeah, exactly. Content is great, and it's going to be better than the yellow pages. My pipe is burst, I'm going to get a plumber. In the old days, we go to the yellow pages, look under P. And then now we Google. Who don't know they have a problem, don't know to look. And those who do know that they have a problem but don't know there's a solution aren't educated enough to know that burst pipes equals plumber. All my staff are leaving and trashing my company. That's actually quite a deep diagnostic that needs to happen there to figure out why. It might be that you're a really bad leader. They aren't going to go, oh, it's the third resignation today. I better Google bad leader and how to improve. Because they don't know that the reason people are leaving is because you're a bad leader. Yeah. So we have to educate people around to it. And that's the beauty of LinkedIn. We're all in a room. We're all having conversations. We're overhearing interesting things. I'm not going to overhear you're a bad leader and be interested in that conversation because I don't know that I am. Leadership's never come up in my topic. I don't know. But if I hear, oh yeah, I just had I had a client and all of their staff constantly leaving. Their recruitment bill was huge. What did you say? Can I try and join this conversation? Yeah, you can. And that's when the conversation starts, when you start talking about the symptoms of a problem that people go, I just overheard that. Can you just repeat that? That sounds like something I'm going through. It's the cocktail effect. Cocktail effect is when you overhear your own name in a room. And you go, what? But it's pretty much the same thing. Is if you're struggling with a problem and somebody articulates the symptoms of that problem just right, you'll get their attention. And that's what we can replicate on LinkedIn. And that's how we can create brand new clients that our competitors have never gone anywhere near and probably never will. Which I don't know if you've heard of red ocean strategy and blue ocean strategy before. Yeah, so maybe I say that for your listeners actually.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so the red ocean strategy is cutthroat. It's an ocean full of blood basically, where everyone's like cutthroat for the same customers and they're slashing prices and discounting left and centre. That's where businesses really struggle because they could over discount and lose money and they're working too hard for the customers. So you need to swim away from all of those people and you want to go into the blue ocean. And the blue ocean is just a beautiful, tranquil place where your competitor's never been and you can charge what you want because there's no price comparisons to be had. And you can build a real relationship with people and have them trust you and value your price. Value. The best for me is when someone's paying me all the money and they still send me presents and they still want to give me their service for free. And I'm like, You're paying me, right? And you're still paying
Yeah.
me with these free services. And yeah, we want to swim out to that blue ocean and make it easier for ourselves. And that is where people have no idea that they have a problem and aren't looking for a solution, where you can bring them to an awareness. The life could be different. You don't need to be putting up with this. And then you've got their attention and you've got their loyalty and you've got their trust. So yeah.
Yeah. No, the blue ocean strategy, and there's so many beautiful ways to think about that. And I think that when you're setting blue ocean strategy, it's a lot of times taking what would traditionally be a red ocean strategy, but then you're adding different pieces to it that make you very unique facing the market. And it can be a real game changer when it comes to positioning and offering something new and different. I had something and I lost it. Lots of really great things there. It's really action-packed and lots of concise wisdom for people. I think we're at about an hour. I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. And I'll say I took your scorecard and your LinkedIn scorecard, and I found it really insightful. And so anybody that's listening, I would definitely recommend that as a really great starting point to begin to understand some of these things. But for anybody who's listening who wants to get a hold of you, what's a great way to do that?
Yeah, so a great way to do that is my main company website is theprofile.company. And obviously LinkedIn is a great place to get in touch with me as well. What I'd love to do for your listeners, Drake, is give them some special gifts as well. So they will be able to go to theprofile.company. So that's the full word, .company, and then /Drake. And then from there, they can find the scorecard and also my ultimate guide for building a LinkedIn profile, which they can get a nice healthy discount on as well for being one of your listeners. So yeah, that's what they can do. So it's the profile,
Awesome.
theprofile.company /Drake. And then they can follow up with me there. And I also offer people a free LinkedIn profile review as well. So that's not for job seekers. Job seekers, I'll probably ruin your career by reviewing your LinkedIn profile because I have no idea. And I'll turn you into a thought leader before you're ready. So I did that to someone's son once. He said, I'll buy from you if you speak to my son. And I was like, no. And then at the end of it, his son, I put him into Industry 4.0, transformative, blah, 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 blah. It's like 22. There you go. Don't let me do it. That's wrong. Just don't let me do it. So yeah, it's anybody who's selling their expertise as a service or has a company and a sales team. I'm really happy just to have a look at what you've got online right now, actually what's going on, listen to you about your goals and ambitions and where you want to be positioned in the company and what you want to be known for. And then I give very specific advice as to what I would do if I were doing it and pitch it. You're very welcome to take notes and go do it yourself. I'll even supply the recording if people ask. But if you want me to do it for you, because you're not a wordsmith, you're too close to your business and you haven't got enough time, that's a conversation we can have as well. And like you pointed out with the scorecard, we said throughout the call, I think, that there are really important business foundations that have to be in place in order to make the scorecard, to make the LinkedIn profile work for you. And that requires having very important assets organized and deciphered. So the scorecard is going to ask you about whether you have those assets, but also on the other side of that, are you getting the benefits of them? Are you being invited to speak on podcasts about your ideal topic? Because you might think you've got your pitch right and other things right, but if actually it's not translating into someone easily says, yeah, come speak on my podcast or come and speak at my networking event, I'd hazard to guess that those things aren't working for you. There are, the 18 questions, it takes 2 minutes to go through. You get dynamic results on the end. So you do get different results from someone who scored differently, with some really key advice in there and then some follow-up emails that will talk you through it some more. That's a really good starting point. And I also have my book, The Expert Economy, that people can get as well, which really talks through the theory of it all. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It was, like I said, when I took it, it was really good, really well done. And it is important. If you're a business leader, more than likely you are harder on yourself and you discount your accomplishments and you're too close to yourself, to your own biography a lot of times to really wordsmith that properly. So I do think having an expert who understands copywriting, who understands the flow, who understands consumer and viewer behavior when it comes to going on a LinkedIn profile. Because at the end of the day, what most people are looking for is they just want to be heard and understood. They also want to be discovered. And discovery is going to be a really big key going into the next 5 years where we have AI and we have all these things. What sets you apart? And so I think that what you're offering is really valuable, and I think that anybody listening should definitely take advantage of those tools.
Thank you, Drake. It's been a pleasure chatting to you today.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Likewise.